Oh yeah, roadster weather. All right, come on you. Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Hot Rod Workshop. Today, we're going to be discussing making paper gaskets. Now, being able to make your own gaskets is a great skill to have for when you're in a pinch. You're working on an old car, you're working on a lawnmower, weed whacker, what have you, and you're taking a carburetor apart or some component off to repair or replace, and the gasket's super old and it falls apart in your hand, or it rips in the process of removing the part. Or it's something real proprietary, an odd car, an odd make manufacturer, and you're not going to have the gasket for 3 weeks. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to have to make something temporary to get you back on the road, to get you back working for when that, eventually when that gasket comes in, you can replace it. But for now, this is the ticket. Now, for demonstration purposes, we're going to make a gasket for this Holley 94 carburetor. We're going to make a paper gasket in between the middle aluminum housing and the base. Now this is the original gasket that came off of it, and this is probably reusable, but let's say you don't have it. So with the paper gasket material, we're gonna make a gasket for this section right here. Okay, so we cut out a section of the roll of gasket material big enough for the gasket that we're making. And the first thing I like to do when making a gasket is assess the part and see if there's any anchor points that I can use when I'm forming the gasket. This has 3 sections here, and I'm going to start on the peak here. I'm going to place my gasket over top, hold it firmly, and I'm going to tap the area where I think that bolt hole is gently with the ball section of the ball peen hammer, and it will slowly start to form around that hole, even cut through as I form it, just gently tapping away until you start to see that circle. Now, you don't necessarily have to do these one at a time. You can hold the material down and tap all 3. So from here, we'll run a screw through our base, through our gasket on top, and just kind of hand snug a nut down. Nothing too tight. Now we can form our other 2 holes. Okay, so now we got our 3 anchor points, so we can secure the paper gasket onto the surface and be able to cut these sections out more precisely without the gasket moving on us. Now, we did use these 3 holes as a cutting surface, basically. These 2 holes are threaded, so it's probably not the worst idea to run a tap or a thread chaser just to clean up the threads a little bit, just in case anything got rolled over. Okay, so now that we have those surfaces cleaned up, we can go ahead and secure our gasket paper down. And just hand tight. All right, from here, we can go around with the ball peen hammer and just slowly tap away and get these areas cut out. Okay, so we got our 3 main holes in the center taken care of. Next step is to do the outside perimeter. You can do it with the ball peen hammer the same way, or you can just flip her upside down, trace with a pencil or pen, and cut it with a pair of scissors. And make sure you use your really small scissors for the precision cuts. All right, so it's dirty, it's scabby, but it'll work. It'll get you out of a jam if this gasket is not going to work out for you, or if it's just not even there. Now, the ball peen hammer strategy works just fine with these large areas and the bolt holes, but when you end up with a scenario like this with this idle circuit here, you're going to have to use another strategy to get these holes in your new gasket. Now, of course, you could always place the original gasket over top and trace your holes and pop them, but let's say you don't have that. There's another way that you can get the location of these holes. Now, hopefully by now your hands are a little dirty. Good, we're gonna need that. You grab any old sheet of paper, throw it on top of the surface that you're going to be making the gasket for, or that you already made the gasket for, and use your finger, dirty up your finger, and just kind of trace it along. Kind of push hard in spots, and you'll start to see those areas. Now we're going to be using this bolt hole on the lower right as our guideline. Just kind of trace it all. Try to keep that paper as tight as possible. Now it's kind of hard to see, but you got your starting point here, you got another baseline there, and you could just make out those 3 holes that we got to transfer over. All right, now from here we're going to pop these 2 holes in the paper using a leather punch. Get it as close as you possibly can to the traced hole. Back it up with a piece of wood. Now, of course, in order to get these smaller holes, you could use a smaller version of the previously used punch, or you could use something a little bit more specialized. This is a hole punch designed for leather work. And instead of striking one end, you actually push it up against the material you're cutting, and it twists with the downward force and puts a nice circle cut in your material. It also has interchangeable heads. This is mostly for small work. Now in the tool, I'm using a die slightly larger than the hole necessary, just in case it goes a little skew. So from here, I line up my 2 guide holes as close as I can to the gasket we formed. And we will place the punch over the holes. All right, just a second. Line it up again. All right, and the last one. Here we are. Let's see how close they are. Okay, now sizing it up to the old gasket. All right, that'll definitely work. Now it's important to mention to get the right gasket material for the application you're working on. Traditionally, you can go to an automotive parts department and they will have a roll of gasket material designed for carburetors or small engine type components. But it's important to have the right thickness and type of material and have a roll on hand. You never know when something's gonna walk in the door that's kind of proprietary, and getting gaskets for that particular machine is really difficult to get or almost impossible, then this is going to be your ticket out the door. So yeah, there you are. Gaskets 101. Thanks for watching. What do you think? You ready for summer? Ready for spring?